Hi guys, today I'm going to be going over how to factor. There's going to be two cases and we're going to start with case 1. Case 1 is that there's a 1 in front of the x squared. As we can see here, there's an imaginary 1 in front of the x squared. So we're going to say what is the sum and what is the product. The sum is always going to be this middle term in front of the x, so 10. Then our product is going to be the term in front of the x squared 1 times this term here, 16. 1 times 16 is 16. So now I'm looking for two numbers that add to 10 and multiply to 16. These two numbers are going to be 8 and 2, because 8 plus 2 is 10, and 8 times 2 is 16. And now that this is case 1, it's pretty simple. Our next line is just going to be x plus 8, and then x plus 2. And this is our final factored answer for the question. So that was case 1. Now moving on to case 2, where there is not a 1 in front of the x squared term. As we can see here, there is a 4. Any number that is not a 1 is going to be case 2. So, similar steps. We're going to begin by saying what's the sum and what's the product. The sum is that middle term in front of the x, 15. Product is our first term in front of the x squared, 4 times 9. 4 times 9 is 36. So, now we're looking for two numbers that when added they equal 15 and when multiplied they equal 36. These two numbers are going to be 12 and 3. Because we know that 12 plus 3 is 15, and 12 times 3 is 36. But now that this is case 2, there's going to be some more steps than the above example. So, what we do is we're going to rewrite this, but we're going to discard the middle term and put these with x's instead. So, our next line is going to look like 4x squared plus 12x from here, plus 3x plus 9 equals 0. So now I'm going to look at this, and I want to put them into two separate groups. So I'm going to group here and here, because I can see that this first group, they both have a 4 and an x in common. And this group, they both have a 3 in common, because the 9 can be divided by 3. All right, so our next line, just looking at this one right here, we said that they both can be divided by 4, and they both have at least one x. So 4x, bracket. Now I'm thinking 4x times what gives me 4x squared? 4x times x gives 4x squared, so I put x there. And now I think 4x times what gives me 12x. 4x times 3, right? So plus 3. Now I'm going to look at the second one. We can see that these both can be divided by 3, so I'm going to put a 3 here, bracket. And now I'm thinking 3 times what gives 3x? Well, we know 3 times x gives us 3x. And 3 times what gives us 9? Plus 3. So plus 3 equals 0. And now that we know this is right, because see how these two in the brackets are the exact same? That means that you're on the right track. Because our very last step of this case 2, we're going to group the things that are in the bracket and not in the bracket. So my final answer is going to be 4x plus 3, because the two things not in the bracket, and then x plus 3, because those are in the bracket and they're the same, equals 0. So this is our final answer for doing this case 2 example. The last example here, what one is it? Is it case 1 or case 2? It's case 1 because there's a 1 in front of the x squared. So let's do the steps for case 1. what's the sum? What's the product? The sum is going to be -4, the term in front of the x, and the product is going to be 1 times -12, which is just -12. So what are two numbers that when added, they're -4, and when multiplied, they're -12? These two numbers are 2 and -6, because 2 minus 6 equals -4, and 2 times -6 equals -12. Perfect, so these two numbers work, and since it's case 1, all we have to do is write x plus 2, x minus 6. And that's our final answer for factoring. If you ever have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. If you're thinking about the question, it is very likely that someone else is thinking of it too.